Hi guys, Alec Peirce Scuba Tech Tips, and again this is one of our LDS Pro tips. Tips that are designed for pros, people in the industry, dive store owners, manager, whatever. And hopefully there's something in these that'll appeal to you. It may be some of my ideas, maybe things you're doing, you probably are. And successful dive store owners, that's what they do. They get great ideas and they try to make it work. This is what you want right here. First of all, let's talk about the straightforward discount. Okay, discount places. I don't care if they're online, offline, at a mortar and brick store or the back of your car, because I have had all types of dive stores. A couple of my dive stores actually operated out of the trunk of my car for a while anyway, until they got going. Not uncommon. So pricing, discounting. So you have a product for sale. Let's take a couple of examples. Let's take tanks or a course. The course is very, very common. Course pricing is very, very common. But let's take something solid. It applies to everything. Well, we'll take something solid, so let's take a tank, or let's take a regular tank. Let's take a tank as a good one. So tanks cost about, wholesale, I'm going to guess tanks are now, it's been a while for me, but I'm going to guess the tank is about $150, maybe more. So a tank technically should sell for $300 or more. But I think the tanks are pretty heavily discounted. I see tanks out there for $200, $229, and so on. So the guy is making 20, 30% on the tank. Now he had to go and get that tank. He had to bring the tank to the shop, which took either freight or gas in his own vehicle. And then he had to get the tank all ready to go. He had to inspect it and sticker it and put a valve in it and lubricate it, and then he had to fill it. So all of this is added to the cost of the tank before it gets to the customer. And then it takes up floor space and signs and marketing, online, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot more costs involved in selling a product and marketing a product than the cost of the product from the wholesaler. There's a lot more. And if you ignore those costs, then it's not going to be very long before you have a financial problem in your dive store. You simply have to keep them in mind. My point is this. If a tank costs wholesale $150, you really need to sell it for as close as possible to $300 after all your other expenses. I've even talked about the dive store rent, utilities, employees, and so on, insurance. After all those expenses, you really need to sell it for close to $300. So let's say that you're trying to sell your tanks and you're selling them at a discount of $299. $299. That's pretty good. It's close to $300, which it should be. It really should be $329, and that way you can offer them a 10% off, which is $32, which brings it down to $300, which is what you want to get. However, I see them out there a lot less than that, and guys complain about them. I've actually heard dive stores giving tanks away. You buy a rig in a BC, you give you a tank away. Well, there's a $150 discount off of the rig and the BC. I hope you got full markup on the rig and BC, because that's a heck of a discount. The rig and the BC is $1,500. You gave away 10% before you even negotiated with the diver. Anyway, so what do you do? Well, how do you decide on the prices? Most dive stores, what they do is they surreptitiously take a look around and see what they're selling for. They go online, or they send a shrill into the other dive stores to find out what they're selling for and ask a few questions, and they figure out what other dive stores are selling them for. Well, I don't quite understand that philosophy. What the hell do I care what another dive store is selling something I'm trying to sell for? Got nothing to do with me. I'm trying to stay in business. I know what I need to sell an item for in order to be profitable to stay in business. If Joe decides to sell his for a lot less than that, that doesn't change my perspective. That does not change my business plan. I need to get $300 to stay in business. So I got to sell it for $300. Now, unfortunately, market conditions being what they are, it doesn't always work that way. And at certain times, you may want to offer a tank at a discount. Number one, it gets divers into the store. Hopefully, they buy other stuff too. Number two, you get inventory moved out. You don't want to have tanks that have their initial test date on them 5 years old. You got to keep some of the inventory. There are a variety of reasons why you might say, okay, we got to do something and get these tanks moving. What do? The most common response is, well, let's drop the price. If we drop the price, the divers will come and buy them. Well, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But let's deal with that. What do? Okay, so tank costs $150. I want to get 3, but I got to move them. And Joe down the street, he's killing us with it. So let's sell these tanks for $199. knocking $100 off the tank. Okay, you've made that decision. You're going to sell the tanks for $199, whatever the motivation is. Okay, you advertise it, $199. Tanks for $199 at my dive store. Now what do? So you sell all your tanks. You got to buy some more. Or you sell enough that you say, whoa, we got to stop this. We're not making any money. So we sold enough, few divers in. So now you raise the price back up to what it was. No, you can't do that. Divers know. Divers aren't stupid. Divers will come in and say, hey, I want to buy one of your tanks. And I know you're not saying, no, not anymore. They were, but now they're what? They're $199 and now you want $300 for it? I don't think so. What is it? Is it a better tank? No. Is it a newer tank? No. So why has the price gone up $100? You see, you set a new price. Yeah. When you drop the price to $199, you set the price at $199. That's the price to divers of this product. Ah, you didn't think about that, did you? So you should not. I don't like telling you what you should or shouldn't do. I don't want to make it and I don't want to say you can't. So it's up to you. But think about these things. You should not simply cut the price. Because if you cut the price and then you have to raise the price later, you got a problem, a perception problem. Somebody's trying to rip me off. They're $199. They were. So what do? Well, what you have to do is reduce the price so the tanks will sell and bring the divers in. That was your original plan. But you have to do that in such a way that when you raise the price later, it doesn't affect them. So you have to work in some type of a program. If you buy a BC, we'll give you a tank for $199. No BC, no tank. What's the price of the tank? $300. Hasn't changed. The price of the tank is still $300. But if you buy a BCD, we'll give you a tank, because we're special people and we love you. We'll give you a tank for just $199. Okay? So they buy a tank for $199. What's the price of a tank? It's still $300. For that special circumstance, okay? So now the tank is still $300. You don't have to raise the price, do you? That's the kind of thing you need to do. You need to think of some ways of offering the tank at a special price, but then raising it back or selling it at the regular price is not injurious to your business. The divers don't get upset, okay? Let me give you some more examples. What else can you do? I mean, that's pretty straightforward. You buy a BC. But when you do that, what you're doing is you're obligating the customer to spend more money than he wants to. He just wants a tank. Well, he's not going to get a tank for $199, is he? The tank's for $300. So what else can you do? Well, what you can do is offer a very short-term discount, but you have to be very, very clear that this discount, this price of $199, is only for Halloween, Christmas, from December the 20th, January the 1st, whatever happens, you had to special. And you had to make that very, very clear that the regular price is $300. The price of a tank is $300. But for that 3 days, we'll give you a special discount. You be very, very clear on that. Don't be wishy-washy about it. You can't say, well, for the next few weeks or so, we're going to sell them. You can't do that. Because now you gained you back to the point where you've been selling them for $199, and then you got to raise the price. The other thing you can do is you can offer extras with it. So the tank is $300. That's the price of the tank. A guy comes in, the diver comes in, he wants to buy a tank. Now what do? Hey, it's $300. Joe's got them down there for $199. Ah, yes, I knew that. But are they new tanks? Do they have this? Do they have air fills? They say, we'll give you a boot. Boot's worth $29. Costs you $10. Okay. Does it have a valve cover? Valve cover sell for $9. Costs you $1.50. Does it have? So what you can do is you can add a number of free or reduced cost, whichever, accessories. Sit down with your pencil and paper. All the things that a guy might want for his tank. Maybe he wants a tank mesh or would like a tank mesh, but he hasn't thought about that. He has to have a boot. I mean, they're pretty much mandatory. A valve cap is a great idea. Maybe one of those vindicators with the light on it. There's all kinds of tank accessories that are very, very cheap. And those little cheap things, $1.50, $5, $10, they tend to have a high markup. So if you're selling a tank boot and they're $30, they probably cost you $8 or $9. You can afford to either give him one at half price or actually give it if you buy us a tank at the regular price. What's the price of the tank? $300. All the accessories Might come to $30 or $40, but you're not giving them $30 or $40 off the price of the tank. The tank price never changes. This is just one example. And this example, by the way, can apply to everything. It applies to the course. There are dive stores and courses, scuba training program, generally speaking, in this area, Central Ontario, generally speaking, ought to be, if they're not, and many of them are, ought to be in the $400 range. Between $300 and $400. It could be anywhere. I've seen some for $275, but $325, $349, $375, $400, $425. Let's call it a $400 course, okay? But I also happen to know I've seen courses advertised for $99. $99. Now, you and I both know, because we're in the industry, or have been, you are, you and I both know that a $99 course ends up costing $400 by the time it gets finished, because there are books and there's equipment and there's rental, open water dive fees, and all that kind of stuff is not included. A proper course run through a decent dive store where everybody's open and honest and is simply there to help divers get into the sport will offer a training program that's all inclusive. When you buy a car, you buy it with 4 tires. They're not extras. It's part of it. I mean, you're buying a car, right? You're not buying tires. You're buying a car. But the tires are included, of course. And this should be the same with a scuba diving course. So a scuba diving course, you need to have those various things. So they're all included. Now your cost has gone up. You can't do all of that for $99. But if you offer a course for $99, and then you say, gosh, you know, it's not enough money. We should be getting $200 for the course. Now you have to raise the price of the course. See what I mean? Raise the price. You never want to raise the price. So you got to be very careful when you offer something for less than what it should be sold for less than what you need to get to stay in business. Just a tip for you guys. Be very, very careful. Bottom line is, don't drop the prices indiscriminately. Be very, very careful of the picture you're painting in the customer's mind. See if you can't work with that somewhere. There are lots of other ideas along that line I'll share with you too. Time to go. Kevin's waving at me. I've been talking too long. I hope there's something in there for you. Talk to you soon. Alec, Peirce Tech Tips.